The sun is shining. It's the summer movie season, and of course that means a large amount of blockbusters in our multiplexes. But it also means a large amount of mockbusters coming to a supermarket near you. And we are, of course, talking about a mockbuster today. We're talking about Road Wars, which is a 2015 movie directed by Mark Adkins, who's directed a few of these kind of mockbusters for Asylum. And this is who this is released by Asylum Pictures. And of course, this is actually ripping off the upcoming Mad Max film, Mad Max Fury Road. However, I will say this, Mad Max is no stranger to being ripped off. When The Road Warrior came out, there was a slew of kind of rip-off movies from both America and from Europe, mainly Italy. So this movie's franchise is no stranger to having its imitators. And, this film is very reminiscent of those kind of, shall we say, tribute films that we had sort of previously in the 80s and things like that. So the premise here, essentially, it focuses on a world ravaged by a virus, and basically it follows a kind of group of survivors trying to escape these kind of virus-infected people that turns them into a cross between the raid zombies from 28 Days Later and vampires, as these guys seem to want to drink blood and are afraid of the sunlight. Add to that, you've got a group of ravaging kind of killers as well that are going around and being bad guys for no real apparent reason. And this group of survivors stumble across this guy who's got amnesia, and they believe that there's this rumour about people who have this genetic cure in them actually have amnesia, so they think he might have the cure to this virus. Hence a kind of an action movie fighting these kind of wandering marauders, as well as these kind of virus-infected people. So the story isn't a particularly original idea. We've seen plenty of these type of movies, as I've said before. But I will say this: when we say Asylum Pictures, I believe we have the kind of the automatic assumption that it's going to be crap. And a lot of the time, you're right, it is crap. But I think this movie, along with a few other ones, do actually have some redeeming features for it. So this particular film, I actually have to say, is not too bad in regards to the way it's made. I think it's competently made, this one. Now, these Asylum Pictures are thrown together in a very sort of quick time, and there are some issues that you'll have with it because of that. But I have to say, some of that, for example, the set design I think is very good here. It's all kind of shot in this sort of desert area, so it kind of looks very sort of your kind of prototypical post-apocalyptic movie. They've all got this kind of like the dress that you'd expect, the kind of the war paint. They've got the kind of the big sort of armour that you've sort of seen in a lot of these films. I watched Wormwood, for example, the other day, and again they had this sort of American footballer sort of armour and things like that. But at least with that film, they actually had a reason to wear it to try and stop these zombies from biting you. Whilst this one, it appears to be more of a fashion statement. To be honest, this guy with the one big shoulder pad, it's going to offer you no protection, for example. But nevertheless, aesthetically, it looks quite good. I have to say that the kind of the main female lead here has got this big sort of mess of frizzy hair, and it obviously looks like it's been unkempt for ages. And I thought that was quite good, a nice little touch. Obviously, this girl hasn't got amazing hair, and it's just this big matted frizzy mess, which I thought was quite good. But on a technical level, it's fairly well made. I think it actually has some reasonable characters in it. The kind of the leader of the good guys, I guess you'd call them, I think his name's Dallas. Quite a good character, actually. Sort of quite calm, quite sort of a reasonable guy, and you sort of quite like his character. There's also, I forget the character's name, there's a black guy in there as well he's got all the best lines. He's got some quite sort of funny lines, actually. The main protagonist is this British guy who has got the memory loss, and unfortunately with him, his acting is not the best. He comes across as sticking out like a little bit of a sore thumb in regards to his acting. Now, I've read the reviews on IMDb before I actually watched this movie, and they all were scathing, but it's not as bad as that, to be honest. I mean, a lot of them will slag off the acting, and yes, the acting is never going to be Oscar worthy or anything like that in this of caliber, but I have to say that I've seen a lot worse, so I really don't think the acting is that bad in this movie, to be honest. It's average at best, but it's not it's not cringe-worthy bad for the most part, maybe with the exception of the main guy, but I think his dialogue is pretty poor as well. They've given him amnesia, but a lot of the times it comes across as him being stupid, the way he says stuff, and there's a couple of sort of pop culture references and sort of sayings that he doesn't understand, and it's like, does he not understand it because he's forgetting it, or is he just really stupid? The main issue I have with this film is twofold. Firstly, it's the pacing. Unfortunately, it kind of drags a little bit. The action in this movie isn't particularly great, which I'll come on to in a second, but there's not a lot of it, and it tends to be a bit of a slow movie. And these kind of, if you're watching a kind of mockbuster action film, you at least kind of want it to have to be quite exciting, but unfortunately it kind of slows down quite a lot. It doesn't really sort of pick up until the last sort of act of this movie, so it's unfortunately it's not a fun, exciting movie to watch in regards to action, because there really isn't a lot of it. There's a little bit of kind of souped up vehicles like you'd expect in a kind of a Mad Max type of film, but we don't really see a lot of like vehicular combat and things like that. And the action shots, this is my second issue with it really, the action shots that we do see are very poorly shot, and they're simply not engaging. There's a kind of shootout towards the end of this movie between the two rival gangs, and it's the most ridiculous thing. If you've ever seen the British TV show, the comic strip, there's an episode called For a Few Travellers Checks More or something, and it's meant to be a piss take of A Few Dollars More and stuff, and all these guys are all shooting each other with cap guns of like taking the mick, but it's like that. They just kind of stand there shooting like from only a few meters away, and you know, it's like no one seems to hit anyone, and or it just eventually someone will get hit. It's like, I don't know, it's a real crap action scene. And we get a couple of these zombie attacks, and again, for the most part, they're pretty uninspired. And a lot of this is the way that these asylum pictures are shot. They're very sort of hastily put together, and unfortunately, this is the downside of it. So, but like I said, I think if you are a fan of these sort of post-apocalyptic films, not the kind of maybe the Mad Max ones, but if you're a fan of the old 80s sort of George Eastman ones that you would have seen, You may get a kick out of this, and it does kind of take me back to those days when you used to go in the VHS shop and you used to pick up some post-apocalyptic film on video that you've never heard of, and you kind of quite enjoyed it for that. So it does take me back to those times. So I actually reasonably enjoyed it. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people will have you believe, but don't be expecting any type of thrilling kind of sci-fi adventure that's kind of going to blow your mind. It does try and be a little bit original with this kind of like the infusion of this zombie vampire kind of virus, and again there's a little bit of double crossing that's going on as well, which I won't sort of spoil for you, but I don't think it was that bad actually. In fact, I'd say this is probably one of the better asylum films, but I'm only going to give it a 5 out of 10 because it's by no means a great movie. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave a comment and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.